Hi guys, Paul here. Welcome back to the Anfield View. I've been down with the flu and I was coughing up like crazy yesterday with the news. Well, in general, but obviously the news that Slot has been fired from the job at managing Liverpool, and I wanted to sort of give you my thoughts. If I go off in a coughing fit, guys, obviously humble apologies, but who knows how much of me I was going to wheeze my way through today's video. But I wanted to give you my thoughts, really. Look, you've probably seen about 74,000 videos and reactions since he's been fired. Look, it's not, in one hand, to those who blindly only follow what the club tends to release from a PR perspective, it all comes as a shock. To those that are a little bit more knowledgeable, they called it a week ago. It's a big shout out to sort of Craig over at Anfield Agenda. Really, as somebody that follows a lot of the Liverpool content from Liverpool themselves, right there across, all the channels, when it comes to sport. Look, ultimately, I don't have a favourite, as it were, so I'm not here to really sort of wax lyrical on one or pull out another one down. But I'm a great believer of sort of credit when credit's due. And look, ultimately, no one, and I mean nobody, called that Slot was going to be fired pretty much about a week ago, and he guaranteed it based on his sources. And whilst others, because it doesn't suit their narrative, will basically sort of scoff as if they're the holy people in the know, as if like, well, in all due respect, you didn't actually say he was going to be sacked. The vast majority was singing on the hymn sheet that was being peddled to them that he was going to stay. Who's right? Who's wrong? Ultimately, Slot's gone. And so there's only one person that was actually out of anything even remotely mainstream, and that was the Anfield Agenda and Craig, who even he got so much sort of backlash, from the other sort of so-called sort of rival. Look, we're not rival. We run, everybody does their own channel. It is what it is, on that front. I don't consider anything as a rival. I just do my thing and do it for enjoyment, like we all do. Some people are there for the sort of company monetization, changing life elements, and more power to them. I've got nothing but respect for everybody in this sort of space. But my general, thoughts are first and foremost, hats off to Craig really for calling it a week ago when it would have been easy not to, and then literally he came back sort of think it's the middle of last week, and just when the narrative was sort of starting to change in terms of he was starting to doubt whether his original sources were right, were going to be correct. Literally every single man and his dog that wasn't sort of mainstream, media. I mean, sort of more online media, as it were, and other rival channels literally sort of laughed at his sort of comments that this was going to happen. Well, they're never going to apologise, but and it is what it is, isn't it? I just think if nothing else, it puts hit himself. And if you're looking for Liverpool content, look, I watch all of them from the Anfield Wrap to Redmen TV, to pretty much all of them. And so I think they've all got massive pluses to them. But I will say that, fair play, for Craig, he broke Verts first. He's broken Slot, leaving first, way ahead, miles ahead of anything, any newspaper, any phone, any talk show, you name it. They were literally led the entire way. So kudos to him. And I wanted to give him props. I don't know Craig, don't know anybody at the channel at all, but sometimes in life it's okay to say, do you know what? Fair play. And everyone, there'll always be people that'll be, well, he did. How would he know? In all due respect, how would you know half the things that you know? It's not like any of them have a Batman hotline to John W. Henry. Nobody does. Nobody from any of the outlets, any of the mainstream, any of the online. None of them have a hotline to the actual owners within the company, or the club, sorry, or even probably Billy Hogan. And so, in all due respect, whatever all the sources are what they are. and you can only go on face value of what comes out at the end of it, isn't it? At the end of the day, and so you know, I just wanted to say that because I think sometimes in life it's okay to give people credit where credit's due, and we live in a world where everybody wants to pull everybody down. And God knows he got enough grief when it looked like, because apparently he offered his resignation because it wasn't going to happen, in terms of he put his neck out there and it looked like it was going to backfire. And you know what? It didn't. And so for that, it takes some balls to put yourself out there, and really back yourself. And so he ain't going to get an apology from anybody. But you know what? He can do. He can get props from people that at least recognise that. Fair play to you for actually taking a stand, backing your sources, and you were right. And you were right like nobody else. Nobody was even remotely near to you in terms of you basically guaranteed it was going to happen, and it did. Look, I would say 60% of the fan base have been asking for Slot to be sort of sacked from sort of January onwards, 35% probably from November onwards. And so him being fired is to me is no shock. But the very fact that he guaranteed it to happen, I thought it was the obvious thing to happen. Could I guarantee it was going to happen? No, no, not one. Not there's many a time that I felt like Liverpool should buy a centre back at various points or a defensive midfielder. Seemed the most obvious thing in the world to do. Do we do it? No. And so there's plenty of times Liverpool don't always do what I think. They're not beholden to me. But yeah, so kudos to Craig over the Anfield Agenda guys. So if you're looking for sort of more Liverpool content, and look, I've got nothing but good things. All of the Liverpool sort of channels, etc. That you all know that are out there. I also watch and listen, and I got nothing but I think they bring each one brings different elements to the table. I really do. Each one brings different elements. Each one brings different passion. Each one brings different insight. And so, look, it's okay to like it. You don't have to like one over another. It's okay to like them all for various bits. And if you like this, fair play. I'll shoot from the hip. I give you, sort of my insight. I've worked in the sporting industry, so I can at least give you some business insight as well as just um, thoughts on Liverpool. But I've supported Liverpool for 40 odd years. Pretty good historical knowledge in terms of the team. We've got pretty good knowledge in terms of how the club runs. Got pretty good knowledge how the industry runs as well. And so, if you're looking for that, great. I'll always give you my view. I won't go with the consensus just because that's the fashionable thing to do. I didn't put out a video. Granted, I was ill yesterday. I didn't put out a video yesterday. One, because I was ill, and two, frankly, I'm not here to bask in the fact that anybody's been fired. It's not great. Was it best for business? Yes. Is it fun that you have to sack a manager that won you a league title? No. Is all of the problems his fault? No. At no point has anybody at any point said every single problem that Liverpool have got this season was his fault. Nobody said that. Nobody's actually said the signings were all his fault. Nobody said that. And nobody's taken any credit away from a phenomenal performance in terms of winning the title. Nobody said that at all. All anyone's ever said is that we've seen no direction of travel that's improved all year. We've seen no players improve all year. If we'd have had a scenario where we were awful from September to January, but improved, and you could see a road where it was improving, you probably would still be in a job now. There's been no youth development really under Slot. The only thing you could probably say is that, sure, for one season, Gravenberch played well. He's regressed this year. McAllister's regressed this year. And the change of tactics in terms of the style to maintain players being fit, how's that one worked this season? Because basically Gravenberch and McAllister have got worse. The team looks more tired now than what they did last year. And you can make an argument. Last year, the wheels fell off from February. And so there's too many contradictions. Like we train one way but it's like we train one way to only play 14 key players. So it's like, well, you only want to play 14, which is going to tire them out anyway. So then you don't want to train them because you're only playing 14 key players. And so it's like, well, look, whichever way you're doing it, you can't just give them all the rest just to play 14. You're going to have to rotate at some point just to keep some of these players fit. So look, guys, Arne Slot's been sacked. You all know this. I think it's the best for the club. Look, What's the chances that we start next season with us winning the first 4 out of 6 games on Arne Slot? Pretty remote, given the fact that we've got Isak, whose fitness record is questionable, to be kind. Ekateki's get out until the new year. We haven't got a lot of these boys in. Kanate's just left. We've got so many holes to plug. The only way we've got hope of really moving forward is one with a positive fan base, which it wouldn't have been if we'd have lost a couple of games next year because we would have just had the whole the whole cloud of last year looming over us. You see, we need to go with a more positive mindset. We need to get more out of each. We need to get more out of the established players, which have been awful this year. We need to get more out of the younger players, which haven't really trained on this year outside of a bit of Rio. We need to see more of training only. We need to see more other players coming through. And so we need to see more squad rotation. We need to see more energy, more fitness, more drive, more passion, all these different elements. And the bottom line is that you couldn't say with any degree of faith that Slot was going to deliver any of the bare basics. And it's not saying like tactically he's inept. It's basically saying that there's too many just general basics that were falling down. And for all the people that just feel like they're because he won a title, he really deserved another season to put this right. The reality is you can have a bad season, then you can have this season. And I don't think people I don't think they really truly. I'm seeing people almost sort of reel back on just how bad the season's been. Oh yeah, wasn't a great season. It's like, first and foremost, we finished in fifth and we qualified for the Champions League because the league was awful. What's all this rubbish? Like, you know what? Finished in the Champions League. Like, no, we were dreadful. We lost 20 games this season, the worst defensive record we've had in Premier League era. I was like, what is? Well, I'm not here to be the voice of doom. I'm just be the voice of like sanity. It's like, oh, but you know what? It really wasn't that bad. What are you talking about? It was one of the worst seasons in Liverpool's history, one of the worst in the Premier League history. Like, it's very much comparable, if not worse, than Roy Hodgson's. Nobody wants to say that because they either really haven't watched us all year or, frankly, just feel blindly that he should have another year because he won a title. It's like, there's limits to how much you can be bad in a season and still keep your job, regardless if you won a title. Any other club in the world probably would have sacked him by January. The very fact that Liverpool are incredibly patient have got to the end of the season. And it's like we got in the Champions League for next season, but not because of our own efforts. Come off it, really. Do you really believe Liverpool deserve the Champions League next year? No. We've got in with a pathetic points tally in fifth. Yeah, let that one sink in. A pathetic points tally in fifth. Great job. Couldn't win any of our. We couldn't win. We had all the big games come towards the end, and everyone, and even the all turn them optimists. Oh, they're going to do it. It's like no. At no point we couldn't even win the last game of the season. We should have lost it in the end. It's just the truth, isn't there, really, guys? So I'll end it on a very short one for you. Ultimately, thank you, Arne Slot, for a superb season when we won the title. For that, you'll never walk alone. And you should never be diminished for those achievements. Last season is what last season is. I don't think anybody wants to really, frankly, to rehash it. Everybody has to learn from it. Everything in life, everybody does good decisions or bad decisions, has good moments and bad moments. You can't change them, you can only learn from them. And this is one of those where you say, we had one very good season and one atrocious season. And the direction we were heading, we ultimately just didn't have the confidence it was going to turn back around next season. And that's just fair enough, isn't it? I think, guys, that look, we move forward. looks like Iraola from Bournemouth is going to be the new manager with a style that's probably a lot more akin to what we want as fans. Look, I loved Rafa Benitez. I love Gerard Houllier. Pretty much love most Liverpool managers outside Hodgson because it just went completely south. And I didn't hate Slot this year. I don't hate anybody in life in general, but I didn't hate Slot this year. It was just probably one of the most depressing seasons for me, probably the most depressing season ever outside of the seasons where we've had Heysel and Hillsborough and the Hodgson element. And I think Heysel and Hillsborough up here, obviously, the start of the season, unbelievably tragic, and especially all the way up to sort of maybe November, December, and for the family forever. In terms of Jota, we God rest his soul, we all love him. And it is one of those where I think it's good for everybody to move forward. The club needs to move forward with a new manager. The players need to move forward with a new manager. The fans need to move forward with a new manager. We need a new energy. We need an energy from the manager. We need energy from the fans. We need energy from the players. We need enthusiasm. We need passion. All of these elements you need to have. The fans feed off the passion on the pitch, and the players feed off the passion in the stands. And if there's none of that, then you're not going to, it help you. I've sat there with many a worse Liverpool team than this and lost a lot less games and played a lot better than this season. Believe me, I really have. And so that really is the sad part of this season is that at times we people play the injury card. Yeah, towards the end, yes, and we had Isak out at various points. We have a lot of the team fit for a lot of the season. The midfield has no excuses. The defence can't just lean on the right back problem all season long. Salah was fit for the vast majority of it. Ekadeki was fit for 80% of it. Gakpo's been fit for all of it. Rio's been fit for the majority of it. Even Frimpong's had a fair amount of fitness this season. There's been more than enough there's been more than enough high quality, amazing top draw players to have achieved a lot more. I'm not even talking about winning trophies. I'm just saying better performances, a lot less losses, and frankly, just a better performances, better points tally, a better finish to the end of the season. A horrible finish to the end of the season. It looked like basically everybody just wanted to just finish the season. It's like you can't when you're being. I know, like they're playing for. It's not. I'm not questioning that they want to play well. They obviously do want to play well. They've been paying 200 grand, 150 grand, 400 grand a week. You can't, it's not one of those where you can just go, oh well, they can just, oh well, ho hum. So what are you talking about? Like in any normal job we all go through tragic situations, but in any normal job, you wouldn't be able to sit there and take £100,000 salary a year and then basically put in zero performance all year and expect to be. You wouldn't see the year out. Your boss would fire out. After 2 months of poor performance, you'd be on a performance review, and then you'd be fired. And it's like people just there's a weird sort of scenario. Like the thing with in sports and entertainment is because they are what they are in terms of their stardom, their contracts, and so on. So it was like nobody's guaranteed to see like the end of the contract. There has to be some element of you have to live up to what you're being paid. I mean, the club's paying a fortune for these players. I don't think it's wrong for them to expect more. I don't think it's wrong for Liverpool fans to have expected more this season. I think we've been incredibly patient because of the very tragic situation. If this season didn't have the backdrop of Jota, then I believe me, there'd have been a lot more angst a lot sooner because I think a lot of people felt very uncomfortable being so anxious so early because of that situation. But there is a point where at some point you have to see a direction of travel and it starts to improve, even if it's from 5% up to 45%. Nobody expected the club to be performing at 100 this year. And you could forgive 80, you could maybe even take 65, but frankly, we were performing closer to 25 than we were that. So great to hear your thoughts, guys. It probably looks like it's going to be Dini Raniola from Bournemouth. I like the style. I like the way Bournemouth play. People are questioning whether his high energy can work with 3 games a week. Look, ultimately, we work with high energy with Klopp. People then talk about, oh yeah, but we crashed and burned, and we had one great season and one poor season because we're tired. Well, ultimately, a lot of it comes down to squad rotation. It comes down to getting the right quality of players. You can sustain a high energy game. You just have to rotate the team. He's going to have hopefully a bigger and a better squad. And if he rotates, there's plenty of room to rotate. Not every single midweek game. One is usually a Carabao Cup game, etc. But not every single midweek game in the Champions League is high level. Some of them will be, but there's some of them that you can more than play a Tranioni in, or you can rest a Virgil, or you can rest. Who knows what strike force or wingers we're going to buy, this summer? It all depends on what the transfer window brings up. So look, all eyes down bingo now, isn't it, guys, onto the transfer window. Let's see how it unfolds. Really, I think we all know. We all know we need wingers. We all know we need a backup striker. We all know we need a defensive midfielder. I don't think we don't think we need 24,000 videos from everybody to tell us that. Frankly, everybody knows it. We've all watched it. We've all seen it with our own eyes. It's as obvious as the day is long what we need. What we need and what we get are 2 different things, isn't it? We badly need some depth in the squad. We need to be coming in with 23 players and not 18. Can we get all these positions filled and some depth? I don't know. I don't know. We're going to need a heck of a war chest. So this is going to have to be. If we thought last year's transfer window was one for the ages, which inadvertently, in terms of the names, it was, but in terms of how it ended, it wasn't. But this year has to hit at least 90%. We need to get at least some part of the wingers 70% right. We need to get the defensive midfielder 100% right. We need to get some element of cover in the centre back. We have to have some sort of depth. If it means that we have to take a Jared Bowen who can play up top and a little bit on the wing to give us some depth and also cover 2 positions and be reliable, so be it. We're going to have to cut our cloth a little bit, guys. We need to get at least 2 or 3 players that can play in a couple of positions, which gives us some way of spending, I don't know, 170 million net with sales. So let's just say 250 million. So 170 plus maybe 70 million in sales, 250 million on about 7 players. Probably more likely to be 5 players, isn't it? But like what we've got now, 21. I think, yeah. The problem is it's going to be hard, isn't it? I think for me, we have to keep Jones, we have to keep Gomez, we have to keep Allison, and maybe even consider bringing Elliott back in to give us some depth as well. But we shall see, guys. Be great to hear your thoughts. As I say, Slot's gone. Thank you very much for the title win season, Slot. It wasn't to be this season. We know it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to be good. Nobody wants to have the season from hell that he did. What can you say? I'm not ever going to be somebody that sort of basks in any sort of tragedy or sacking. Or it's just not who I am. I will say it if I think it's the right thing for business. It is best for business without a doubt. There's not 1% of me that says it's not going to be best for business. But equally, I'm not in my view. I can't guarantee the next manager is going to be Klopp next. Because whoever comes in doesn't have the same body of work like Klopp did, like Slot didn't have the same body of work, in terms of following Klopp. And equally, when Klopp came in, I had no idea that FSG were going to be able to back him as much as to really help us achieve what we wanted to achieve. And so time will tell. Yeah, ultimately, guys, the club's in a far better position than what it was when then Klopp took over. So we can invest more and let's get a bit more sort of fight. Let's get the spirit of the club right, the team effort right, the mindset right, the fitness right. Just get the basic fundamentals right. So if we can go into games where we actually fight, we look like we've got a bit of tactical now, so we've got our passion back, the mindset's right. Look, if we lose a game because somebody curls a ball into the top corner and we lose 2-1, I can hack that any day of the week if we fought hard. I'm at peace if other clubs want to outspend Liverpool at times. I accept the FSG model is what it is, but equally, what I don't accept is when you expect the bare fundamentals. And I think my biggest struggle this year is just that I can't accept players just not being fit. And I'm not saying that it's their fault. I'm just saying that there's something fundamentally wrong when you start games slowly and you finish games tired, and yet you haven't, and you're being outrun by everybody, and then the excuses are, yeah, but we control the possession. It's like, hold on, we're at walking speed, we're doing nothing with the possession, and yet we look tired out at the end of the game. So, in one hand, the theory of the possession is to try and maintain our fitness, yet we still look exhausted at the end of the game. So we're not playing high end energy football. We're playing a slow style, yet still look tired, yet still giving them all week off as well. And it's like, well, for the slow style and the week off, we still look tired. So whichever way you look at that equation, the outcome equals that philosophy is wrong. The slow style, the lack of fitness, and being outrun and outfought by everybody, and the outcome equals wrong. And so, whilst we had one season up until February of that season when we were playing 14, 15 players, and we slightly turned down our level of how we played, sure, it worked. The league was also awful. Man City fell off a cliff. Arsenal were awful after Christmas. Chelsea were awful. Man United were awful. It's like many. Yeah, we had a great start to this season. I get it. Gravenberch was phenomenal then, and McAllister was a different player, and the team was also a lot fitter because it was taken over from Klopp. Still, maximum credit to Slot for that title, for the tactics that he proved. He was the one who got Gravenberch to be saying that he wasn't before. He was the one who got one last phenomenal season out of Salah. Sure, he was the one that got a ridiculously good season out of Konate. Amazing. I'm not sure how much, was Gakpo playing better because it was his first season under Slot, or was Gakpo playing better because he had to fight for his position? I don't know. All I do know is the players that improved last season under Slot regressed this season. Gakpo, Gravenberch, Konate. All the players that improved through that initial bounce under Slot completely play well this season. Gakpo had the position given to him because Diaz got sold. What was the reward for Slot from him? Absolutely nothing. What did Gravenberch do after the first 5 games? Nothing. And you can make cases to that. Yeah, Gravenberch was let down by the fact that McAllister was awful. I get it. But and the fact that Gravenberch wants to play further forward. I understand that as well. Not your job, though. Somebody has to be back. McAllister can't be back. He's an attacking midfielder. Slobod's is an attacking midfielder. You're not meant to be an attacking midfielder. You may want to be, but you're not actually there to be. And, it is what it is. Obviously, we've also said bye to Konate. Look, it is sad in many ways because what could have been, and at times what was, is the curious case of Ibrahim Konate. At his best, he was a 9, a world class, one of the top 5 centre backs in the world. You just never knew when it was coming. Last season, 80% of the time, phenomenal. Last season, his fitness was great. Previous seasons, fitness awful, form up and down. There was many a time he was miles outplayed by Matip. If you asked me to compare the two, Matip was far more consistent. They both had injury problems, but Matip was far more consistent. And so did Matip have the 9 out of 10 games with Konate? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't need to because Virgil was always at his peak then. But what he had far more consistency. You very rarely got a 4 game out of Matip. Most of them were 7s and 7 to 7.5s, maybe an 8 here and there. With Konate, you'd get a couple of 9s, you'd get a couple of 3s and 4s, And unfortunately, where we're at as a club now, without the stability of Robertson being our world-class left back, and he's moved on, with the question marks over the right back, with Trent gone and Bradley's fitness, with Alisson's fitness problems, you need Canate to be consistent 7.5 most weeks to help out Virgil. And with Virgil's, rating really coming down a bit now because of his age, we were expecting Canate to be that consistent 7.5 to 8 at his high. Wouldn't surprise me if he's amazing at the World Cup. At his high, Canate can be one of the top 5 centre backs in the world. He's proved it many a time, just not consistently. His average is probably a 6. His highs can be a 9. His lows can be a 3 and a 4. It's truth, isn't it? At the end of the day, I mean, you could put what? Let's just say his lows can be a 4 to be charitable, and his highs can be a 9. Yeah, you're looking at a 6 to 6.5. It's basically Canate's average, really, over his career. I would say Matip, his average was probably 7. Yeah, no, it would be, because I would say Matip's high would be an 8. Sometimes a 9, but mostly an 8. And then his lows would be a 6. Put them together, bingo. There you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry it's a little bit late. I had a massive coughing fit yesterday. I've been down with the flu all week. I wasn't even sure if I was going to get through this video without literally just having to pause 24,000 times. So, yeah. It's always sad. I don't think any person ever thought Liverpool would ever sack Slot this season. If you'd have told one fan last summer when we bought Wirtz, amazing. When we brought Isak, amazing. Nobody thought this would happen. That's the nature of sports, isn't it? Sometimes there's so many variables that happen. And the good news is, on one hand, you can turn things around like that. You do have to get the right things in play. You have to get the right manager in play, the right tactics, the right flow. You can turn things around a lot quicker. Liverpool do have some great, talented players. They're just missing some very key pieces of the puzzle. Usually, you start off with like a defensive midfielder, or a great centre back. Look, Liverpool still have a world-beating keeper in Alisson when he's fit. They still have Virgil. They still have Szoboszlai. You still have Isak whenever he's fit. You still got Rio. Ultimately, you need another winger that's world-class and proven. You need a defensive midfielder to go alongside Szoboszlai. So then our dependency on whatever happens with Gravenberch or McAllister or Jones or whoever. And we need another centre back, really. I don't know who that is. The problem that we've got with the 2 young centre backs, Leone and the one from France, is the fact that they've both they've just had injuries, the shoulder and the ACL, but also the fact that they're young, adapting to the league. It's a big ask to expect one of them to be literally at a 6.5, 7 out of 10 level straight away. Plus, they're going to need to be rotated as well. I think keep Gomez, keep Jones. We need to have the depth. We need them in the squad. I think Jones deserves to stay. I don't think this season was managed well for him. I think he deserved to play. Did Jones put up trees? No. Should he have played a hell of a lot more than McAllister this season? Yes. You could make an argument that Training only should have got a hell of a lot more games as well. Just a thought, guys. Speak to you more soon. You take care. Bye-bye.